Welcome. NOAA has just issued its May of 2021 climate report, and this video is a summary of that report and other related information. Let's have a quick summary of what happened across the globe during the month of May. Arctic sea ice was at its 9th lowest. That's a drop of 5% from the average. Antarctic sea ice, on the other hand, was above average by 2%. North America had its coldest May in a decade, with droughts in the southwest and floods in the southeast. It was the coldest May since 2004 in Europe. In Asia, it was the second hottest May on record, and in Africa, the sixth hottest. We also now have ENSO neutral conditions in the eastern Pacific. Temperatures remain, for the most part of the world, in the top 10 of all time. That's out of over 140 samples. Globally, we were 0.8 degrees centigrade above the 20th century average. Land, nearly 1.3 degrees centigrade, that's 6th position. Ocean also in 6th position with 0.6 degrees centigrade above the 20th century average. The Northern Hemisphere was just over 1 degree centigrade above the 20th century average. That's the 4th warmest on record. And the Southern Hemisphere was at nearly 0.6 degrees centigrade above the 20th century average, and that is in 12th position. This is how those temperatures were distributed around the globe. You can see we have both cool and high temperature areas. For example, the middle parts of North America seem to be unusually cool, whereas the west and east coast warmer than average. Western Europe was fairly cold, but Russia and Siberia seem to be warming up once again, just like they did the last few years. Most of northern Africa has been well above average, and so has southeast China. India had a particularly cold snap by the seam of it, and we still have a large area of cold water off the western coast of South America. This is the remnants of the La Nina that we've been suffering for the last year or so, and it seems to be breaking up now. This is the equivalent percentiles map. This shows you what areas were suffering record temperatures, both high and low. You can see we've had one record cold, which was in India, as I mentioned before, but there have been a lot, 43 record high temperatures set around the globe. And although there are 4 much cooler than average areas, there are hundreds of much warmer than average areas. So generally, overall, the globe does still seem to be warming. I've added May of 2021 to this matrix, showing it to be in 6th place. It's still not quite catching up with 2018. Let's take a look at the upper atmosphere. That's the 3 layers: the troposphere, the mid-troposphere, and the stratosphere. Oddly, we don't have any information on the lower troposphere at the moment. I'm not quite sure why that's the case. But the mid-troposphere was 0.18 degrees centigrade above the long-term average, which puts it as the 13th hottest year on record. The stratosphere, which is cooling, was 0.26 degrees centigrade below the long-term average, which makes it the 10th coolest measurement. Well, let's take a look at the cryosphere. This is the areas of ice in both the northern and southern hemisphere. Arctic sea ice was well below average in May of 2021. It was the 9th smallest extent on record. That is the 20th consecutive year that May has been below average. A different story for the southern hemisphere. In the Antarctic area, the amount of sea ice was slightly above average, 2%, putting it as the 16th largest extent of sea ice on record. Why the northern and southern hemisphere sometimes act differently is not well known. Well, let's take a look at the crux of all this matter, the atmospheric composition, particularly the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere in May of 2021. It sets yet another new record for the month of May. We were at 419.47 parts per million. We didn't quite make the 420 as I predicted. That's still a 2.93 parts per million increase over the same time last year. As I mentioned earlier, we have slipped from having La Nina conditions into ENSO neutral conditions. That means that the Southern Oscillation Index is between minus 0.5 and plus 0.5, and is likely to remain so until the end of the year, according to the models. So we can expect somewhat higher global temperatures because this portion of of the Pacific Ocean is now warmer than it has been for quite some time. Well, let's take a look at US climate. Nationally, the figures are approximately average, but there again we have the west, southwest, and northeast above normal, and the central part of the country below normal. And unfortunately, most of the country is in drought, the exception being Texas and the center west part of the country. But particularly the west coast is suffering from a very, very bad drought at the moment. And Florida doesn't seem to be doing too well. So in summary then, the La Nina is over. And so neutral conditions should remain in place until the end of the year. At least that's the forecast. It was the 6th hottest May on record. Sea ice below average in the Arctic, but above average in the Antarctic. CO2 sets a new record high for May. And we had the first tropical storm of the 2021 hurricane season named Anna. And this is, I think, something like the 5th or the 6th consecutive year where we've had a tropical storm form before the official beginning of the hurricane season, which is June 1st. So until next time, stay safe and goodbye.